So this tutorial is focused on Postcard from a Travel Snob, which is written by Sophie Hannah and published in 1996. So in terms of the context, one of the things that was happening in the kind of late 80s and in the 90s, you've got the real rise of the middle classes. So the 1990s are a particularly kind of affluent time when people have got a lot of disposable income. And there's also much more air travel. So if you think about first flight, commercial flights really become common in the 1970s. So when people start going on holiday to Spain. But as we progress through the 80s and then into the 90s, you get this real tourism boom. And also amongst middle class people, and particularly amongst gap year students, this drive to have a kind of experience and to do something unique. And that then became a way to kind of show off about how well travelled you were compared to other people. So there was a real kind of prestige in having a unique experience and doing something other people hadn't done. So you've also got a financial gap, haven't you, between the affordable package holidays that the sort of working classes might be able to afford and the more bespoke experiences that middle class people would be able to afford. And so the sort of package holidays and resort destinations such as Benidorm and the Costa del Sol became associated with that kind of Brits abroad behaviour, lots of drinking, that kind of thing. And this is something that the snob within the poem, who's the persona, is definitely condemning. Now, when we look at the title, Postcard from a Travel Snob, this noun shows us straight away that Sophie Hannah is condemning the speaker of the poem, the persona, whose voice in which the poem is written. So it's definitely not an autobiographical poem. She's definitely creating a persona who she is ridiculing and poking fun at. You can see at the top here I've coded this, so anything that's highlighted in orange are the sort of things associated with the package holidays, and anything that's in green is the travel snob's destination. Okay, so let's look initially. I do not wish that anyone were here. Okay, so this is an ironic reference to the Wish You Were Here postcard, okay, and it reinforces the title, the idea of it being a snob, and sets an ironic tone immediately. The tone then is kind of superior, critical, pompous, isn't it? I'm really pleased that I'm here by myself and that nobody else is here. Now, by having that kind of critical tone, straight away we can see that the poet, Sophie Hannah, dislikes this persona that she's created and that she's presenting them as a person of ridicule, and immediately she's inviting us as a reader to ridicule them too. It then continues, this is not a holiday resort with karaoke nights and pints of beer for drunk tourist types. Perish the thought. Okay, you've also got the enjambment here, which is something structurally you could look at when it goes into this list of the holiday resort, and that gives it a more conversational tone. And that's broken then by the caesura here, where we get this little aside, perish the thought. Now, that's a very colloquial phrase which kind of adds to the conversational tone, but it's also pretty pretentious and sounds pretty pompous. So it fits in with this idea that we were talking about earlier, that the tone of being quite pompous is something that the poet wants her to dislike in the persona. That's then juxtaposed, this package holiday, with where they are. This is a peaceful place, untouched by man, okay? Not your seaside town consumer hell. I'm sleeping in a farmer's van. It's great. There's not a guest house or hotel within 100 miles. Okay, so let's look at this a little bit. So obviously the idea of it being a peaceful place and untouched by man is supposed to connote something positive. Okay, the idea that it's isolated makes them feel positive about their destination because it makes it more unique. But they are sleeping in a local farmer's van, okay, which, if we think about it, maybe doesn't sound like the most luxurious and enticing holiday. And again, that shows the kind of irony of with which Sophie Hannah is treating this persona. The dashes here create a kind of casual tone, which again, like we talked about with the enjambment here, creates a sort of conversational feel that these are like additional thoughts, okay, so, and they also allow this thought to kind of intersect, okay, so where you get the dash here and then not like your seaside town consumer hell, it adds a kind of juxtaposition, doesn't it, that suddenly they think, oh yeah, this is great because it's not like this, and that furthers a sense of juxtaposition that comes through between the package holiday and travel snob's destination. It's great as an another colloquial phrase which is kind of introduced by the dash here. So the dash is kind of having the same function, I would say. And then we get these hyphens linking together the seaside town consumer hell. And that happens again further down, if I just move it up, okay, where we get the sun and sangria, 2 weeks, small-minded, packaged Philistines abroad. It's a kind of journalistic style, which when we think about this very pompous speaker, and they obviously think they are superior and better to everybody else, and using that kind of journalistic style just causes that kind of idea of superiority. Interesting, we get enjambment across the stanzas here, which is always something that's worth looking at. There's not a guest house or hotel, we're 100 miles. Now, I think here, the enjambment creates a sense of space, the roomness. You know, there's a big gap, just like there's a big gap between them and where everybody else is. Nobody speaks English apart from me, and rest assured, and that's as we looked at before. Now, they said that this place is untouched by man, but there's a farmer living there, and there are local people who obviously speak the local language. So it's not untouched by man, because local people live there. So I think, again, this is sort of showing us the arrogance of this persona, that they think because there are no other British people there, that it means it's been untouched by man. It's a really kind of egotistical point of view, I would say. So this is parenthesis here, isn't it? Because we've got this information in brackets. And again, that parenthesis adds to a conversational tone. And it is, again, juxtaposing their experience of their destination with these kind of package holidays that they're very scathing about. Okay, and then we get this last stanza. When you're as multicultural as me, your friends become wine connoisseurs, not drunks. I'm not a British tourist in the sea. I'm an anthropologist in trunks. Okay. They just come across as so arrogant and condescending in this last stanza. So you've got all of these polysyllabic words, right? So words that are have more than one syllable: multicultural, connoisseur, anthropologist. That's low frequency lexis. So low frequency means words that aren't used very often. That gives it a kind of, again, quite superior and elevated tone. But what's interesting is that the word multicultural is used incorrectly, okay? What they mean is that they're widely travelled. Their identity in and of itself is not multicultural. See, the fact that they've used this polysyllabic word, the speaker of the poem, to try and show their intellect, but they've used it incorrectly, shows us again Sophie Hannah's irony. She wants us as a reader to also ridicule this person who thinks they're better than everybody else because they're having a unique experience. The pretentiousness really comes through here as well, that you're a wine connoisseur and not a drunk, okay? This idea that because you're drinking expensive wine, you're not drinking it to get drunk, and that makes you somehow better than everybody else, is massively pretentious too. Now, anthropology is the study of human beings. So again, it's really pretentious of this speaker to think that they're studying the local people, particularly when they can't even talk them the local language, okay? And this is critical again of those kind of package holiday people, isn't it? I'm not a British tourist in the sea, as if there's something wrong with going on holiday and swimming in the sea. So all the way through then, the poet uses irony to look at holiday destinations which others might consider ideal, and she uses contrast to striking effect. There is also a regular AB rhyme scheme that goes throughout the poem, and there's a couple of things that you could say about that. You could suggest that it is gives it simplicity, like you would expect in a postcard. That's quite a sort of simple, straightforward type of writing. Or you could suggest that it is also used to ridicule the speaker, because the speaker thinks that they are incredibly elevated and intellectual, they're an anthropologist, they're a connoisseur, but actually they've used an incredibly simplistic rhyme scheme all the way through, which shows you that really they've just got a really overinflated sense of self.